The galactic trade station hummed with the usual cacophony of 1,000 different species going about their business. Hazel skipped alongside her father Leo through the crowded marketplace, her eyes wide with wonder at the exotic goods and strange beings that filled every corner of the massive orbital platform. "Stay close, sweetheart," Leo called out, adjusting the worn tool bag slung over his shoulder. He was a maintenance engineer on the station, one of the few humans who'd made a life for themselves out here among the stars. Hazel nodded, but her attention had already been captured by something else. Near a merchant's stall selling bioluminescent fabrics, an alien woman sat slumped against the wall. She was a Velcarital and graceful, with silver skin that shimmered like starlight, and 4 elegant arms. But what caught Hazel's attention was the way the woman's lower left leg hung at an awkward angle. Clearly malfunctioning, the prosthetic limb sparked occasionally, and the woman's face, so different from a human's, yet somehow conveying the same universal expression of pain and frustration, was creased with distress. "Dad," Hazel tugged at Leo's sleeve, "that lady's hurt." Leo followed his daughter's gaze and immediately saw the problem. The Valkyrie woman was trying to adjust something on her prosthetic with her multiple hands, but each attempt only seemed to make things worse. Other aliens walked past her without stopping, some glancing with what might have been pity before hurrying on their way. Hazel didn't wait for her father's permission. She walked right up to the alien woman with the fearless curiosity that only children possess. "Excuse me," Hazel said in Galactic Common, her accent charmingly imperfect. "Your leg is broken." The Valkyrie woman looked down at the small human child, her large luminous eyes widening in surprise. "Yes, little one, it malfunctioned during my shift. I cannot afford the repair clinic, and I must get back to my post soon, or I will lose my position." Leo had followed his daughter over, concern etched on his weathered face. He knelt down to get a better look at the prosthetic, his experienced eye already assessing the damage. "My dad can fix that," Hazel announced with absolute confidence. Beaming up at the alien woman, the Valkyrie looked skeptical. "With respect, human child, this is Valkyrie biomechanical technology. It is complex. It requires specialized tools and knowledge of our physiology. My dad can fix anything," Hazel insisted, crossing her arms with determination. Leo chuckled softly. "She's not wrong, though I appreciate your concern, ma'am. May I take a look?" The Valkyrie woman hesitated, then nodded slowly. What did she have to lose? The repair clinic wanted credits she didn't have, and her shift supervisor had made it clear that another absence would result in termination. Leo set down his tool bag and examined the prosthetic carefully. It was indeed sophisticated, far more advanced than most human prosthetics. The integration points where it connected to the woman's body were sealed with a biotech interface he'd never seen before, and the neural conductors were unlike anything in his usual maintenance repertoire. But Leo hadn't survived 15 years on a galactic trade station by being afraid of unfamiliar technology. "The main servo is blown," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else, "and the neural feedback loop is creating a cascade failure. That's what's causing the sparking." He rummaged through his bag, pulling out various tools that looked primitive compared to the sleek technology of the prosthetic. The Valkyrie woman watched with a mixture of hope and doubt as this human engineer, using what appeared to be archaic instruments, began to carefully disassemble part of her leg. A small crowd had begun to gather. Other aliens stopped to watch, murmuring among themselves. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and their reputation was mixed. They were seen as primitive in some ways, yet eerily adaptable in others. "Hazel, hand me that copper wire from the side pocket," Leo said calmly. The little girl dug into the bag with practiced efficiency, producing the wire her father needed. She'd watched him work hundreds of times before, and she knew his process. Leo worked with steady hands, bypassing the blown servo with a clever work, then using a small electromagnetic pulse device to reset the neural feedback loop. He replaced a damaged conductor with a piece of human-made circuitry, modifying it on the spot with a soldering iron that made several onlookers gasp at its crude simplicity. "This shouldn't work," the Valkyrie woman whispered, watching in amazement. "The technologies aren't compatible." "Made them compatible," Leo said simply. Making a final adjustment, the prosthetic leg suddenly hummed to life, the awkward angle correcting itself as the systems came back online. The woman slowly stood, testing her weight on the repaired limb. It held perfectly. She took a step, then another, and a smile so similar to a human smile despite the alien features spread across her face. "It works," she breathed. "By the stars, it actually works." "How did you?" Leo packed up his tools, shrugging. "When you work with enough different systems, you start to see the patterns. Most technology, regardless of where it comes from, follows certain universal principles. You just have to understand what needs to happen, then figure out how to make it happen with what you've got." "Told you my dad could fix it," Hazel said proudly. Taking her father's hand, the Valkyrie woman knelt down to Hazel's level. All 4 hands pressed together in a gesture of deep gratitude. "You were right, little one. Thank you. Thank you both. I have no way to repay." "No payment needed," Leo interrupted gently. "Just pay it forward when you can. Help someone else who needs it." As they walked away, the crowd parting before them, whispers followed in their wake. The story would spread through the station like wildfire. The human engineer and his daughter who stopped to help where others had walked past, who made impossible repairs with primitive tools and sheer ingenuity. "Dad," Hazel asked as they continued through the marketplace. "Yes, sweetheart. Why didn't anyone else help her?" Leo was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. "Sometimes people think problems are too big or too complicated for them to solve. They assume someone more qualified will handle it, or that nothing can be done. But you know what I've learned? That most problems aren't as impossible as they seem. You just have to be willing to try." Hazel squeezed her father's hand, thinking about the alien woman who could now walk again, who could return to her job and her life, all because a human engineer with a bag of simple tools had been willing to try. Behind them, the Valkyrie woman stood tall on her repaired leg, watching the human father and daughter disappear into the crowd. She touched the prosthetic limb reverently, feeling it respond perfectly to her neural commands. Perhaps, he thought, these humans were not as primitive as the galaxy believed. Perhaps their greatest technology wasn't in their tools at all, but in their stubborn refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible to fix. End.